You are listening to the Manument Podcast. My name is Casey, and I'm here with my buddy Glenn Johnson, investment advisor and founder of Jabez Financial right here in the Uncasville area. In every episode, he is here to break down today's biggest retirement worries and headlines for us. All right, if you've got some upcoming travel plans, you might want to think twice before flying with a lithium-ion portable charger. This type of charger can pose a fire risk if they overheat. So lately, TSA agents have been taking them from carry-on luggage if the battery is too big. So when I was reading about this, Glenn, a couple have caught fire. So they were making the news this week, and I was thinking about it from a retirement perspective, as I do. And I wanted to ask you, when you're doing a portfolio x-ray, what sort of quote unquote flight risks have you seen in people's plans that can cause a financial fire?
You know, when I meet with people, oftentimes I'll sit down with them and I'll ask them, I still want to find out what their tolerance is, not just their risk ability, but I want to be able to have a good understanding of where people are coming from emotionally around their money as well. And so I'll ask them, how do you feel about some of this stuff? And they tell me, well, I'm really a conservative investor at this point. I'm retired now. It's not time for me to assume as much risk. So I need to back that off. So I'm more conservative. I'm like, okay, well, let's see. Then we take a look at what they have, and it turns out they've got 90% of their investments in equities. And I think, well, wait a minute. You were just telling me that you're conservative. I'm like, yeah. But when we actually look at the underlying holdings, it's like, this is an aggressive portfolio. See, what people have oftentimes is vastly different from what they want and what they need. And they're way out of line. And sometimes they're just unaware of it because what they've had worked for so long. They may have started out 15 years ago with a conservative portfolio or maybe even a moderate portfolio, and they've backed it off a little bit. But what was moderate in 2009 is very aggressive in 2025. The market has changed. It's almost impossible to have a very conservative portfolio in the stock market right now. So when you take a real and detailed look into what people are actually having, it reveals itself that what they once thought was a conservative portfolio has morphed into an aggressive portfolio. And when they think that they're conservative, it's very easy to say, or even more importantly, for people that say that they're a moderate investor or even aggressive investor, that's an easy thing to say when we're in a secular bull run. When things are going up, people can confidently say, yeah, I'm an aggressive investor. This is going great. Well, whether you're an aggressive investor or conservative, it isn't determined during good times. That how well you can handle risk, whether it's emotionally or otherwise, how well you can handle risk isn't determined when things are going well. It's determined when things are going badly. When the market drops, when it plummets, that's when you find out how aggressive were you really. Just like one's character isn't revealed during good times, one's character is revealed in times of adversity. That's when we're squeezed, when we're under pressure, when we're under stress, that's when our character and integrity is exposed and revealed. And just so when the market's dropping, that's when you find out how risk tolerant you really are. And it takes some it takes some mental gymnastics to imagine. If you think about your portfolio, you're looking at it, look at that dollar number, and imagine what it would really look like if next quarter that came in and it was 40% less. If it dropped $100,000 or $500,000 or $600,000, however much it dropped, how would you really feel if it dropped like that? Mm-hmm. That will help you determine how aggressive of an investor you really are.
Well, let me ask you this, Glenn, because life, we know, is going to throw us curveballs all the time. And sometimes something that seems perfectly safe can actually be a hidden risk, just like the chargers that we were talking about. So if someone's portfolio suddenly faced a crisis like an unexpected market drop or an emergency expense, what kind of, let's call it an emergency exit, since we're talking plane references, what kind of emergency exits should they have built into their plan to stay protected?
Well, for example, for people that like to hold individual stocks, it's a smart move to at least have some stop losses put on there. So if it starts to tank, you can limit your loss and have some downside protection on those individual stocks. If it's money that you want to kept safe, well, maybe you want to have some stop losses in there so you're using investments where at least your principal isn't at risk. Maybe there's it's funny when you talk about, well, how do you get out of this? And the best answer is, well, be prepared so it doesn't happen. It's easy to say that.
Yeah. Hindsight's 20/20.
That's right. And so it's simple for a financial advisor to sit down and somebody say, well, you know what? You should have prepared. Well, I didn't. Now I'm here. Now what? And this is where, Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that you had when you created it. We have to look at, well, what kind of mindset did we have that allowed us to get into this predicament and then correct our thinking? And when we correct our thinking, we can increase our creativity and then find out, well, what other options are there that will work for me? I could throw out lots of ideas. However, they're not necessarily going to be suitable for everybody. But when you have the right relationship with somebody and you can have that conversation about, okay, well, this is what I was thinking when this happened. Well, let's correct that. Let's add some new information into the mix so that we can increase our wisdom, and opportunities to get out of this will reveal themselves. See, everyone's situation is different. And this is why I invite you to give us a call and call the 860-288-9977 and come in for a conversation. Let's have a dialogue and find out about what opportunities do you have that you're not necessarily seeing. It's interesting, we've heard that adage that, God won't allow us to experience something that we can't handle. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not true. Because if that were true, there wouldn't be any suicide, right? He doesn't give us any problems that he can't handle. Mm-hmm. And just like as you seek, so shall you find, right? Knock, door will be answered. These are just life principles here. We have to do something because every problem we have, the answer is out there. It's almost like, we're not faced with any kind of temptation that's irresistible. There's always a way out, but we have to choose it, even though it's uncomfortable. So regardless of the situation that you may be in or the concerns that you might have, there is a way out. But there is a way to get things properly positioned so you can have more success, but you have to do something in order to get the knowledge you need to increase the wisdom to make better decisions. This is where, I invite you to call 860-288-9977, schedule a time to get on my calendar so we can have a conversation about this. And that way we can explore and find what kind of opportunities are out there that you might be missing that you could take advantage of and greatly improve your financial situation.
Yes, do not miss out on this chance to meet with Glenn. He cares about your success. He's excited to see how he can help you, but spots are limited. So give us a call. 860-288-9977 is that number for you again. We will help you find a convenient time on the calendar. Remember, there is no obligation attached to this either. This is just a complimentary consultation. And you just got to call 860-288-9977. We are standing by now. Or, of course, you can always find us online. We are at jabezfinancial.com. All right, let's talk about some good news, Glenn, shall we?
Absolutely. That'd be
all right,
great.
Like a windfall. A windfall can come in many forms. So you can get a nice work bonus. You could win the lottery. Maybe you get an unexpected inheritance, or a windfall can literally drop out of the sky, as it did for a 10-year-old boy in Los Angeles that I was reading about this week. Zachary Ruderman's parents had told him they were going to pull him out of school early to have his braces removed, but really instead, they surprised the young Dodger fan with a seat to Game 1 of last year's World Series. And when Freddie Freeman hit a walk-off grand slam in the 10th inning, Zachary wound up with the ball in the right field stands. Now, months later, that same baseball, Glenn, was sold at auction for $1.56 million. How insane is that?
But crazy.
Also, how cool for this 10-year-old kid. Now, I wanted to ask you, Glenn, if this happened to one of your clients, let's say 10-year-old Zachary is your client, what would be on your checklist of things for him to do?
Well, I can't imagine what a 10-year-old would want to do with $1.5 million.
Goodness.
It's
Go to the toy
unfathomable.
store.
Exactly. It's too bad Toys R Us is out of business.
Toys R Us is out of business. He's racking it up on Amazon, probably.
Right. Well, this is where when people come into a windfall, whether it be a large inheritance, a lottery win, a lawsuit settlement, which is where most of them come from, and on paper, people become, well, now you're a millionaire. You've got over $1 million in net worth. You've got or $1 million in investable assets or whatever it is. Well, your bank account or your net worth will always conform to your mindset. This is why people that win the lottery file bankruptcy at a higher percentage rate than anybody else.
Because lottery curse.
That's right. And that with every blessing comes a burden.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes into a windfall such as this, now they're burdened with the responsibility of being able to manage it and handle it properly so it doesn't ruin things for them.
Right.
So when we think about recognizing that your bank account is going to conform to your mindset, if you end up with $1 million and you didn't earn it, you better figure out how to mentally become a millionaire or you'll end up losing it. At the same time, if you don't have $1 million and you want to accumulate $1 million, you have to have the mindset of a millionaire. I remember reading in my book, reading one of the books in my 20s, The Millionaire Mentality. And we're going to think about things differently because where the mind is, the body will eventually end up. We'll either increase our resources, skills, and abilities and assets to fit our mindset, or our mindset will sabotage whatever blessings we receive, and they're gone. I think it was Zig Ziglar that said it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Oh, I like that.
People undervalue preparation. They just want to look. They look at the glory side of accomplishment at the end. But the will to win is nothing without the will to prepare. And so if we can get as excited about preparing as we do about winning, that's when we start doing what's necessary to be able to handle the blessings that come our way and do what's necessary to create the kind of assets and resources we want to have so that we can live the life we were created to live.
Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Isn't that another one that they say?
That's an old one, a good one. Yeah.
So you mentioned, Glenn, I don't remember what the percentage, but most people that win the lottery end up filing bankruptcy. So what are the common mistakes that people can make after receiving a windfall, and what strategies are you using to help them avoid turning that lucky break into a financial regret?
You've heard of that thing, heard of survivor's guilt?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when I was in the fire in Rhode Island in 2003 that took 100 lives, the people that made it out, some of them suffered from what's called survivor's guilt. Yeah. And that was a tough burden to carry because it was just, why me? Why did I make it? Why was I okay when the people I was with passed away? Well, when we come into a windfall, there can be that same kind of survivor's guilt where, okay, now that I have these resources, I didn't earn it. I didn't deserve it. I'm not worthy of it. And so they can fall into the trap of giving it away foolishly. Now, I'm not saying giving it away is a bad idea, but if we're going to use those resources to bless other people, we have to be smart about it. You don't want to just play it, because here's the thing. When you have a windfall and you have extra resources and maybe you want to give it away, you want to make sure you're giving it away in the right places, because that's wherever you plant that seed or that fertilizer, really, you're going to get more of what you're planting it. So kind of like whatever you respond to, you get more of. Like if somebody's always griping at you and you keep fighting back and responding to them, it's going to welcome more arguments, because what you respond to, you get more of. Well, if people are taking their resources and giving it to people because people are crying and complaining, you're going to get more crying and complaining. Right. So we want to use these dollars and benefit people that are appreciative and not people that are victims. If we're going to do anything with it for people that are really struggling, we want to invest it in such a way so that we can give them an education so that they can stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah. I like that. Well, how do you help clients balance the excitement maybe that comes along with the windfall and balancing that with the responsibility of managing it wisely, especially if it's tied to something sentimental like an inheritance from a family member or this once in a lifetime sports moment that this kid experienced?
We know it's interesting. Every dollar out there that was earned or created by somebody, every dollar that you have will get spent by somebody eventually. Either you're going to spend it, your kids are going to spend it, a charity's going to receive it, or the state's going to take it. Someone's going to spend it. So with that, we want to figure out, well, what do we need to do to maximize the benefit of these dollars? And so sometimes we have to step back. Yes, we've got the excitement. This windfall just came in, and along with it brings an array of different emotions. So, we're excited, we're nervous, we're scared, we're all of a sudden, well, now I can start dreaming again. Like what are the possibilities? And we start imagining what life could be like, and it can take us down so many roads. And because the opportunities that we have are endless, being able to learn how to say no to good things becomes critically important. We living in the United States, which is the land of opportunity, and it's almost like the land of countless opportunities. So it's hard to decide. So when someone receives a lump sum of money that's far greater than what they could picture or visualize, and all of a sudden they've got all these opportunities, and a lot of them, there's a lot of good opportunities. In order for us to be productive in using those resources, we have to be able to get good at saying no to a lot of good things, recognizing that the biggest enemy of great is good. And that's where we don't want to scatter things too thin, but go at it with specific intention, and then we can expect the result that we want to get.
A windfall, it's a rare opportunity to significantly improve your financial future, but it requires a smart, deliberate plan. And Glenn helps his clients with things like this in his office every single day. This is a huge part of where the advising part of being a financial advisor comes in. So I want to remind you, our first 5 callers today at 860-288-9977 will receive an introductory conversation with Glenn. No pressure, no obligation here. This is just a conversation and a way for Glenn to learn how he can best serve your needs. That number again is 860-288-9977. Snag a spot while we still have some. One more time for you, that number, 860-288-9977. Or, of course, if online works better for you, you can always get connected with us at jabezfinancial.com. And that's Jabez, Jabez. All right, before we leave today, Glenn, I want to talk about the legendary Stevie Wonder for a moment. He is still making music at age 75. And when the BBC recently asked him about retirement, he answered, he's not going anywhere. Take a listen to Stevie.
For as long as you breathe, for as long as your heart beats, there's more for you to do. So as far as retiring, I love playing music. That's like my mantra. So as long as you can imagine is as long as you are going to be creative and as long as you let your mind work, you don't have to retire.
So for the rest of us, Glenn, isn't good financial planning a way to gain the freedom to choose what you're going to do next?
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting. We hear this from Stevie Wonder. We talked about it on another show with Paul McCartney. One of the most successful people I ever heard speak saying, I'll retire the day after I die, maybe. Here's some people that are not just living a dream, they're chasing it. Mm-hmm. So how do we get to the point where we've constructed a lifestyle that we don't want to retire from and that we're looking forward to what's next? A couple good questions to ask ourselves at the end of the day is, what's something we did today that we did really well? Something that was hard, something that was difficult, something that really pushed us. What's something, but we did it successfully. What's something we did right? And we want to ask, well, what's something we're looking forward to tomorrow? So each one of those things, when we reflect on something we did right, it builds our confidence. When we pre-play something that we're looking forward to tomorrow, it sets the stage for a better attitude, which affects what we do. And in the process, we can build on our strengths and work with optimism instead of fear and construct a lifestyle that propels us towards what we're looking forward to rather than trying to avoid what we're afraid of. You can't steal second base with your foot on first, right? You have to look at where you're going. And the clearer your vision of what you want your future to look like will embolden you to take the necessary steps to act on faith and get moving. As we continue to move forward, that's why it's important to always to know what you're looking forward to so you can continue to live with enthusiasm. And when Stevie Wonder was talking about how as long as your heart's beating, you've got purpose. Well, purpose never goes away. It just changes. It evolves. It grows. It becomes something new. And when we have a lifestyle, a habit of being, of growing and pushing ourselves and accomplishing things on a daily basis, of doing things that are difficult, and we're intentionally looking forward to tomorrow, finding something to look forward to, even if 90% of the day are things that we're dreading having to experience. We've got to find that one piece of tomorrow that we can look forward to and spend some more time focusing on that. That's what propels us through. But if we could spend some time imagining what your future could look like if you knew you couldn't fail, if failure was off the table, what would you want your future to look like? And imagine that, mentally get there, allow yourself to dream, even if disappointment is a possibility, because at least you'll get a lot further ahead than you would have if you were just avoiding tragedies. When I was playing soccer, we'd get out in the field, and I remember talking to the people, talking to my team at halftime, and I'd say, look, we can't win trying not to lose. We've got to put it in the net. We've got to go for the goal. We've got to shoot. We've got to get the ball up there. We've got to shoot. We're going to score. We're not going to win playing defense. You can't win trying not to lose. So envision what your life would look like as a win, and then chase after it like there's no tomorrow.
That's beautiful, Glenn. I love that. Thank you for sharing that insight with us. We've got a few more minutes, so I want to ask you, we've been giving away these 5 spots today for an introductory conversation with you. So can you talk to us a little bit about what happens in those introductory conversations in your office and, what people should be prepared to discuss?
Well, as I invite you to give us a call and come in for a conversation, do some due diligence, check out our website, learn some more. As you come in and we sit down and get to have a conversation, it's such an exciting experience because now we get to meet somebody new, and I get to meet new people. I'll tell you, I love this business. I love doing this because I get to learn so much from so many people, and I get to hear your story, what you've overcome, what you've accomplished, and some of the dreams that you're looking forward to. And in the process, I've been able to pull out pieces of things. So, what? I'd like to do that. I'd like to try that. And I've been able to gain so much from listening to my clients that I almost feel like I get more out of it than they do sometimes. But I'm also looking for it. I'm looking to learn. I'm looking to find out more about the people that are coming into my office. And when we have these conversations, we get to dream a little bit and figure out, well, what could we accomplish? What could we do with these things? Because here's the thing. A lot of times I'm meeting with people that are later in life. They've had success. They've accumulated a significant amount of wealth. And now they're just trying to get things in order so they don't lose it, which is a good idea, but also figure out what they're going to do with it for the rest of their lives and who's going to get it when they pass on. Well, what I've experienced, and you can take this to the bank, it's far more rewarding when you help somebody else win than it is to realize your own personal victory. When you can impart some wisdom on somebody in such a way that they can receive it and change a behavior and their life gets significantly better because you got to make a contribution to it, that brings more joy and more fulfillment than even obtaining your own success. It's funny. I used my NSX as an example. I know it's something small, but when I first saw the car, I thought, boy, someday I'm going to own that car. And it was a dream of mine, and it was motivating, and it got me out of bed in the morning and inspired me throughout the day. And after I got it, it was kind of anticlimactic, where I was like, well, of course I have. This is where I saw myself for years.
Yeah.
But you know what's more, I find that's more fulfilling and exciting to me than the day I bought it and was driving it home from New Jersey is handing the keys over to somebody else and say, here, take it for the week. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. And letting somebody else experience it and build their own dream. So I invite you to give us a call. Come into the office. We've got our number, 860-288-9977. And I'd love to hear what your dreams are. And so together we can have a conversation around it and we can explore the opportunities that are there waiting for you to make those dreams reality. Not just for you, but for everyone that's going to benefit from it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Manument Podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Glenn Johnson, Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.